John Blackmon, welcome to the How to Create VR tutorial series. You're from Trivantis, and you're showing us your CenarioVR.
Yes, I am.
So welcome. I've known you for quite a while, actually, and I've interviewed you. I think it was at DevLearn. I don't recall. Yes. I think so. I think it was DevLearn. And in fact, back then you had CenarioVR, but you weren't in production yet.
Right. Just prototyping at that point.
Just prototyping it. Yeah, exactly. So really quick, give us a quick background of yourself and what is Scenario trying to accomplish, and try to do that, in a couple of sentences, because we want to jump in and have people check it out.
Absolutely. So John Blackmon. I'm Chief Technology Officer and co-founder here at Trivantis. Probably know us through our products Lectora and Course Mill, but we have a new product here, CenarioVR. And this is for VR creation using input from a 360 camera or any rendered 360 video or image, and allowing you to create primarily e-learning content with that.
Cool. So let's jump right in. What are we looking at? What is this? The our project? Explain what the My Scenarios means.
This is the dashboard, right? So here is where you have your list of things that you're working on. I am logged in as an author. You can see I'm logged in as a demo author here. And this is just a list of ones that I've created. You have different lists up here. You can look at the ones that have been assigned to you, because even authors can be a student. We have the concept of public. So if you want to put something out that's reachable by everyone, you can have public. And we have the concept of shared scenarios. So like you can see in this one, it's a shared scenario. We actually work together with another author on one title. But let's go ahead and dig right into one of them.
So real quick, a question on that. So share scenarios, the difference between that and public, meaning that people can watch it or interact with it, right, as a consumer of it.
Right. This is for a consumer. So you publish it, you can publish it publicly. People will be able to look at it. You can actually put a link to it directly, and people can link to it without logging in. Sharing is for authors in your organization.
So if you and I are working on this, you could be working on one scene while working on another scene.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Not at the same time. All right. So to get started, you just select one of these. We're going to go first and go ahead and look at one that's already been created and see what it looks like. And then we'll maybe go in a little bit later and see what it's like to create one from scratch. We'll look at this Corals of the Caribbean. This is a title that gives you a little entertainment and infotainment about coral, the status of coral. We give you some information about it, ask you some questions. We start out with a little scene here, and we'll just go into preview so you can see it real quickly to see what it looks like. The audio just comes through for my headset. It's not going through there, but you see we have a little audio playing in there. You can select things. When it's running on the desktop, you select by selecting with the mouse. If you're inside of a VR headset, you gaze at hotspots to select them. We click it and select it. It brings us into a scene. When that scene loads up, it begins playing audio. I can hear, again, I'm hearing a voiceover in my headset that's not coming up here. And then you get a full 360 view of what you're looking at. In this case, we're looking at a coral reef, and it's going to ask us questions about that coral reef. So we click on hotspots. It can bring it up. There's a lot of things it could do, but it is bringing up a hotspot and asks us a question. And then you stare at the letter to answer the question. Just looking at real quickly how that actually works.
Quick question before we jump into that. I see you're running in the browser, so it's obviously a web browser e-learning tool for creating. So, right, exactly. So it's in the cloud. Any specific browser, or will it work with, obviously Firefox support web VR? Will it work with, and I think you're using here Chrome, right? Now, do you have to have WebVR enabled in Chrome?
Nope. It works with default Chrome, so we have everything enabled there. So you can use all of the popular browsers, really. I'm not listing IE as a popular browser. So for authoring, IE will not work for authoring. We do support playback in IE, but all of, so you have the big four, which is Chrome, Safari, Firefox, and Edge, right? So those four browsers are fully supported both on Mac and PC, Safari and Chrome on the Mac and all four on the PC. And Opera seems to work as well, but we don't really test with that. So I think we'll just stay away from full support of that. But then IE only for viewing, not for playback. And then on the VR side, we have iOS and Android apps that come with this, and so you can publish out and play on those and view in cardboard-style devices. It also works quite well viewing from the browser inside of Oculus Go headsets.
Oh, okay. So you can go to the Oculus Go, put the link in the browser there, and it'll work.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, cool. So we're inside a particular scene here.
Yes.
Or a project.
Yes, this is a scene. So on the left, the way we organize things is we have your scenes on the left, and these are just simply clips taken with a 360 camera. This is actually the beach in Boca Raton where I live, and just plopped the camera down and filmed a beach scene there, and then took some things and put some objects over it. So you just simply drag and drop each of these scenes in here. They're equirectangular videos, which is the output of most 360 cameras. And then you turn that into a story by adding objects to each individual scene. So we support a lot of object types here. So we have hotspots. Hotspots are, just images. We have some defaults. This is an example of a hotspot here. So if we bring up, just double clicking on that, we bring up its properties. We have some default ones that come with. We give you these as defaults, but you can add any image in as a hotspot. You see here is that image is right above it here. That's so any PNG or JPEG image can be added as a hotspot. Hotspots have actions associated with them. So that's how you get things done within CenarioVR. So you associate an action, in this case with a hotspot, but there are lots of places you can put actions. This action is just a link. If you remember when we ran it, we clicked it, we went to the other scene. So it links to that scene. It's very visual. We kind of show you what scene you'll link to so you can choose which scene, but it links to this one right here, the seafloor one. But we could have done other things as well. We can hide things, show things. We can play or stop media. This is MP3 audio or MP4 video. So not just the video for the scene, but you can actually add 2D video in here. So let's say that there was a TV on the wall. You could actually play a video in that TV and have the TV, appear to be playing some video on the TV. So it's a great way to do close-ups, things like that, when you're showing somebody how a part works or working with some little widget at the time. You can actually throw a little video up onto the 3D sphere and it'll play within the 3D environment. It'll work in VR as well. You can obviously pause and play the scene. So if you're asking a question and you want to pause the current scene that you're in while you're asking the question, you can do that. So pausing and play. And you can even jump to times in the scene. So as you see, we have a timeline down here. We can jump around within that timeline. Panning to objects, which is just looking around. You can force the camera to turn to something. And we have the concept of scoring. So this is an e-learning tool. Scoring is automatic. As you add questions in, those questions will add up to a number. So let's say if you had 10 questions, each question would be worth 10 points, and you would be able to score it that way. But if you wanted to set a custom score, you could do that as well. So a custom score would be something like giving somebody 5 points for a correct answer and -2 for an incorrect answer. You could obviously use that in there. And we have the concept of completion. So completion, we are an e-learning product. We support SCORM, XAPI, and CMI5. All of those require a complete action to be done. So we give you the choice of putting in a complete at any time so that you can actually just jump out. We don't force it at the last scene to have a complete. We actually allow you to put a complete action wherever you want. Along with that, we have conditions. So we have this right now. It's going to link there as soon as you gaze at it, no matter what. But if you wanted, we could have added conditions to that. Conditions are an if-and kind of thing, so you can have multiple conditions. And the conditions are supported differently depending on what type of object you check. So within a condition, you select an object. It can be any object within the entire scenario. So let's say you select a scene. If you select a scene, you can say if that scene has been selected. So you can click over here and say if it has been, has been visited or not been visited. So if you know if somebody's actually been to that scene. If you select something like a hotspot, you can say if that hotspot has been selected or not, or if it's been shown. And you can go even deeper on things like a question. So we have a question right here, the what is coral question. If we check that, you can actually look to see if it's correct or not, if it's been answered or not, or if it's even been shown. So everything depends upon the object type. If you check a video, you can say if the video has been played. So a lot of different possibilities.
So I have a question for you there.
Yes.
In this hotspot that we're working on, we've added an action to jump to the seafloor if the coral question condition, let's say, was true. That's okay. Yes. But if it was true, let's say, right? Now, that means I can add another action to this hotspot that says, I see. So but
hide, play, show, absolutely. As many actions as you want, you can add in there.
And the conditions are attached to that action, not to everything.
That is correct. So each individual action has its own condition. So I can have 2 conditions on this one, no conditions on that one, 3 conditions on that one, however you want to work.
Oh, that's pretty cool. You can get pretty complex there.
Yes. You can get crazy if you want to.
Yeah.
The nice thing is you don't have to. If you want to make it very simple, a tour, you can actually just drop these in, link, and walk through, or you can get quite a bit more. For instance, in this particular one, we have this first scene where we have a beach thing going and we have this button here, but it's possible that the user wouldn't understand that they're supposed to select that button by gazing at it. They've not used something like that. So we actually put a timed action in here. So on the bottom, we have a timeline. So it's a 19-second video. The video is set to loop. That is a property of the video is set to loop. But at 19 seconds, if they haven't selected that, I actually show this hint box. So I have this little text box right here. And that text box, its initial property is not to be visible. So we've set it not to be visible. And 19 seconds in, if they still haven't done anything here, we're going to show that, and they should figure out from there, oh yeah, I need to hit that play button here to move in. So you can do things like that along the way, give hints.
So when it's done looping, it'll go away, the hint, and then when it starts again, 19 seconds later, it'll give you the hint again.
Nope, the hint stays up. So in this case, we've never hidden it. It doesn't go back to an initial state. It just is visible at that point.
So I'm assuming we could add an action that says let's just say at 22 seconds, hide this hint.
That's correct. And then that will work. Yes, absolutely. And if you have actions along the way, and remember we had that one thing to jump to scene time, it'll repeat those actions if you do any jump to scene time. So
Right. Cool. So on the left, explain a little bit. Under each scene, so we have multiple scenes here. We have the beach clip scene, the seafloor scene. Within that, you're showing like a list of things. I'm assuming those are all your hotspots?
They are all objects on there. Yes, some are hotspots, some are audios, some are questions, things like that.
Oh, I see your objects. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, and we try to we have a little icon over here that kind of gives you a hint as to what the different things are. So we have an image, an X, a bubbles, and so this scene actually is where it asks the actual questions, and we have a few things here. So we start with, and it's probably easiest to use with this. This is our edit mode visibility icon. So you can see that. So if I take those two off, you can see we start out with this star, and this is a hotspot. What is Coral Star? So what this does is when it's a hotspot, so it accepts a click or a gaze, and it has three actions. It's going to play a question, so you'll hear a question audio. You always want things to be very immersive, so it's not as you usually want to have a voiceover or something going along so someone really feels like they're in there, as opposed to, a normal e-learning course where you probably would have just presented them with the text. But so we play in the audio, we show the question, and we hide that star. So we've actually hidden this piece in here, and that's going to go away. When they actually get the question, and I'm not showing the question right now. Actually, let me show it first, and then, so there's the question. So when we show the question, it's very simple. You just put in the text and your different choices, and then you mark something as correct, the others are incorrect, and then you do something based upon what they've done. It's the same list of actions as before with the hotspots. So in this case, if they get it right, if they get the correct answer, you're going to show the check to show that they've gotten the correct answer and play the correct audio along with that. If they get it wrong, you're going to show the X and play the wrong audio along with that, so they got it wrong. So it's kind of you get a good immersive feedback. You really can learn from it. And then when the audio is done, it's going to play a correct, it's going to play a wrong. And then we have the concept of on done on there, so we can chain these things together. We can chain them together, and when it's done, it's going to go automatically to the next scene. But there are actually two questions on here, so we just make sure that they've both been answered before you move on to the next scene. So it's just kind of forcing you to go through and do everything on that scene before you move forward. So kind of neat stuff. And so it's basically the same exact routine over here. We have the same set of questions and answers, and we move forward.
Now, it looks like you can add, like you said, a whole bunch of objects. What about any kind of 3D models or anything like that? Can you currently do that, or will you be able to do that in the future?
In the future, yeah. That's something we're looking at. It's one of the forks we're working on is 3D models. Right now, everything is 2D. We do support 2D and then 2D rotation. So if you want to put something in and rotate it, we have that availability for you, but it's all 2D objects as far as what you paste in there. And right now those get pasted on the outside of the sphere. So your world that you live in here is kind of a sphere, and everything is pasted on the wall of the sphere, on the inside wall of the sphere, and you sit in the center and look at it.
Right. You can paste it outside of the wall. In other words, in between the user and the wall itself.
Right. It's just, it's all pasted on the wall.
But in the in the future, you say when you'll be doing these 3D models, are you going to be able to paste it within the sphere itself?
Yeah, there should be the concept of 3D motion, moving it inside and outside.
Right.
It will not outside. You'd lose it if it went outside,
Right.
but at different levels within there, up to the wall itself, certainly. And then 3D rotation would become important at that point as well.
Now, right now, from an interaction perspective, you can either, if you're on the desktop, you can click, right? But if you're on an HMD, you gaze. What about grabbing? Are you guys planning on doing anything, especially when you have 3D models? Are you planning on doing anything where you either grab or touch with like a touch control or a pointer, let's say like the Oculus Go?
Absolutely. So that is in prototype right now. We're working with the different headsets. So there have been a lot of really cool headsets that have come out recently. The Oculus Go is probably my favorite. I really like that. The price is really good on it as well. But you also have the HTC Vive Focus and the Lenovo Mirage Solo are additional headsets that are out. And we're working on support for all of those headsets. They all have controllers. So that'll give us a way to utilize the controller. So rather than gaze to select, it'll be controller select. So you'll be able to go in. And that enables a lot. I mean, it does enable the 3D grabbing and things like that, but it also enables really quick gameplay as well. So as you can imagine, with the amount of things that you can do here with working with all the conditions and the kind of things you do, you actually could have quite a game built in this, but you do need that quick action to go with it, and those controllers will enable that. So we're really looking forward to that.
Right. For example, let's say you have a circle, a square, and a triangle, and you have an object, and you'll go ahead and place it in the right location. I mean, that's a silly example, but then you grab it and throw it in the right location. You're saying in the future you'll be able to do that with your tool?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool. So this is WebVR. This generates WebVR in the end, basically, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
A couple of questions. Do you plan on doing anything where it'll generate like a native app that you can put out? And the other question is, this is web browser based, the IDE, the tool itself. Do you have any plans for making a desktop tool?
No on the desktop tool. It'll always be SaaS based. We really haven't found a lot of limitations on that yet. So I think SaaS based is the way to go. It gives us a great way to update and work with the tool. As far as app based, right now we do actually have, it is working with iOS, or we have iOS and Android apps this for CenarioVR that it does work with, and we are working on apps for the other things. Now, it won't be WebVR anymore. The output, we create a neutral output, if you will. It's a JSON-based output that gives us a data packet, and we'll interpret that with the app like we do on iOS and Android right now. It's running in WebVR right here on the browser. We'll be creating a player for each of the different headset types coming up.
But because it's your app, right? It's a CenarioVR app. I'm assuming you will generate some sort of QR code that they scan and that brings up their e-learning experience?
We actually do that right now. Do I have... I don't have a publicly published one right now, but if we had a publicly published one, we actually produce a QR code. You can actually look at it.
Right.
And
and that's what brings up the experience itself.
When you're using it in an e-learning context, let's say at a company, you would actually publish it privately, and then you would assign those to users. So we have the concepts of users and groups, and we actually store analytics as well. So you would create your users. Let's say you have 1,000 users in your company. You can actually create each of those users, assign them into different groups. So I have a student group assigned here. And then you can assign scenarios to those individuals. So here we have those 4 students. They've been assigned each of these, and they actually get automatically pushed those. If they have it on their app, it gets pushed to their phone, or if they have it online, it's pushed to their account here online. They then will take the scenario, go through it and take it, and we'll actually gather analytics on them as they're going.
So in your app, the CenarioVR app online on the mobile app, you log in with a username.
Correct.
Got it. So
Correct.
that's how it. So this is in essence almost like an LMS as well for VR content.
Because there really wasn't a good solution for distributing VR previously.
Right.
So we had to really find a way to get it out there and still be able to take back XAPI statements on the back end. So it's a fully XAPI-enabled experience in that we're tracking everything that's done within the scenario via XAPI.
What if I want to use my own LMS and publish to that? Is that a possibility, or does it depend on the LMS that I have? How does that work?
It absolutely is a possibility, and it absolutely works. We've published to most of the LMSs out there. So let's just take a quick look at our publishing options here. We'll go back in there to our scenario that we were looking at. So if I click on Publish, you'll see that we have a lot of different publishing options.
I see.
Here's that first option, CenarioVR Live and Mobile. This is where you get your choice of public or private publishing, and that's where we'll host it. We'll be your LMS and LRS, if you will, in the background, and we'll automatically keep everything for you. But if you want, all the rest of these are download options. So if you want to put it on your website, you can publish to HTML5. You'll get a download option. You can download it directly and work with it, or XAPI and CMI5, which are both XAPI standards, or SCORM. So even a traditional LMS you can put it on.
Right. But then what you're doing is you're running it as a web experience, basically.
Correct.
Right. Okay. If you run it as a web experience within a web VR ready browser, will they be able to put on their desktop like Oculus Rift and be able to view it, or no?
Not a desktop Rift, but if you have if you run it on your phone and your mobile device, it will pick up that you are on the mobile device and give you the option to go into VR. So once you're in the option to go into VR, what will happen is you'll get a small set of goggles down here on the runtime,
Right.
and you'll just click it and it'll go into VR mode.
Right. And then it'll track all the score and everything into my LMS.
Yes, if it's running in your LMS.
Right.
And if you're running via SCORM, it'll just be completion and score, the standard SCORM things.
Yeah. That makes total sense. Cool. A couple of final questions because we're running out of time. If what about for collaborating? You share there was a share where I can collaborate with an author, but let's say I want to send this to an SME for approval.
Absolutely. So then you would just publish it. If you're going to keep it privately, you would publish it privately. So if I wanted to share that with an SME, I would just add that SME as a user. I would publish it privately, and it would automatically get sent to him, and he could bring it up and take a look at it. And it would come in under his assigned scenarios. He would not have a my scenario.
Right. Can he put comments to tell me, hey, no, this is wrong, this information here is wrong, or change this, or is he at that point just another viewer, basically?
He's just another viewer, right? Yeah.
So there is no reviewing in the system yet.
There is not. However, we do have as Trivantis, we have a product called Review Link that we're actually discussing putting it in capability of Review Link as well. Yeah.
Okay. So a couple of questions. We don't have to go into pricing or anything like that, but I'm assuming it's a per seat pricing cost.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So is it a per authoring or is it a per viewer or what's the model?
So it is basically priced per author, but then you actually have a certain number of seats that come with it. So if you buy a starter or a pro, you get a set number of seats that come with it. If you do go to the enterprise level, you can pick your numbers and then the price just varies depending on how many you go up to. We actually have pricing all the way up to 1 million users. So
got it. Okay. That makes sense. Cool. All right. Well, I think you've covered just about everything. I know there's analytics in there, but we'll leave that for people just to learn more about it. I mean, basically, well, maybe give a quick overview of analytics. What kind of stuff can we check out?
The analytics are, like I said, all XAPI based. So you get up front a summary of everything that's in there, and then you can actually drill into the course. So everything is drillable. You can actually drill down into it. We try to keep it very graphical and drillable. So you get an overview. You find out who has passed, who has failed here. Most things are clickable and give you lists along the way. We keep a leaderboard of interactions that go in. You can look at the interactions time spent, or you can look at interactions time spent and scored. You have your experience timeline as you're going through. You can actually click on things and get the entire list of experiences on any day. And then each scene also has information on there. So every question within every scene, you actually find out how each question was answered, who answered right, who answered wrong. And again, those gives you pop-up lists as they go, what hotspots were selected on the page, so you can see how many hotspots were selected on each page. And then you can drill in. So if I wanted to drill into an individual student, I can look at this student's performance on this particular course. So I could actually look through and see how he did, how he compared to the other students in the course, his specific experiences in that course. But I can also look at how that student did across all of the different courses. So I can say, okay, here's this student, here are all the different things that he has launched, here's how many times he's interacted with them, and here are his scores across all those. And again, all of his experiences and all of his interactions by day or in total, and then how he compares to each guy for that student across all of his courses. So a lot of good detail, a lot of information in there.
Yeah, that is a lot of information. All right, very cool stuff. John, I really appreciate your time showing us CenarioVR. If people want to find out more about it, I'm assuming CenarioVR.com, as we're seeing in the browser there?
Absolutely, CenarioVR.com. Just go there. You can sign up for a trial.
How long is a trial?
14 days.
Okay, and if they want to get a hold of you, do you want to give them email or Twitter or something?
Sure. CenarioVR at Trivantis.com. That'll come to me.
Excellent. John, I really appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
All right. Thank you.